Hi, I'm Pastor Stephanie Lape. I serve at Crossing Crown Lutheran Church in Rancho Cucamonga, California, and I hope you're doing well these days. We've been in quarantine for many months now, and it is just a crazy, crazy time. Speaking of wellness, I just saw on Netflix yesterday that they have a new series about how we in our culture, in our country, have a huge wellness industry. We have all these different companies and fads and fashions that try to tell us different ways that we can be well. I'm sure you've seen, the latest diet crazes that come out all the time. On this series on Netflix, one of them is fasting and how that has affected some people's lives. They're talking about very interesting and controversial treatments, like treatments of getting stung by bees in order to feel better, which I don't quite understand that. Using essential oils and all kinds of things to try to help people feel well, not just taking medicine. For the most part, I applaud that intention. Some things maybe aren't as good as they are marketed to be, and you got to look deeply into these things. But the intention is good, I think, to try to be well. And part of that wellness is our spiritual health, our mental health, our emotional health, which of course goes along with our physical health because we are not really compartmentalized beings. We really are, all of us, one holistic self. And if your physical health is not good, that's going to affect your mental health. And if your mental health or spiritual health or emotional health, if that's not good, that's going to affect your physical health. So it all interlocks and combines. And of course, my position as a pastor is to talk much more about spiritual health, mental health, emotional health. I'm not an expert in physical health at all, although I find nutrition and exercise and all of that stuff interesting, in a layman's way. But in terms of mental health, that's been a big issue during this quarantine. How are you doing mentally? How are you doing emotionally? And that connects to spiritual health as well. How is your spirit feeling these days? How are you thriving or are you not? I just got off of a conference call with a bunch of people that are clergy, and some of the things that we were saying was that, it's such an unprecedented time, and we're trying to find in our profession how to be a pastor during this time. It's a time that they didn't teach us in seminary, where you can't go be in person with your parishioners. You can't sit by their hospital beds if they're suffering or dying. It's a very different time. So we were thinking about, how to be pastors during this time without any kind of precedent to set the way. I can only imagine now that schools are started again. I bet a lot of teachers are talking about how to be teachers during this time. It's a very different way of being a teacher, whether you're a kindergarten teacher or a college professor. It's just so different. I can only imagine being an artist during this time. If you're a performer on stage or a musician or any kind of artist, that's got to be really different. I'm sure doing business and practicing law and even medicine, everything is so different. And they didn't write about this in the textbooks. I mean, even back when they had the pandemic in our country from 1918 to 1920, it was very different than how it looks now because now we have social media. So, for instance, being a pastor then wouldn't have meant filming your worship services and putting them on YouTube. It's just a different world. Being a parent looks very different than it did a year ago. How do you keep your kids protected and safe while also not terrifying them? And while we're going through this time, a lot of us feel like we have no idea what we are doing at any given moment, myself included. I mean, it's all just trial and error. It's all just saying, well, I'm going to try something and let's see if this works and let's see what the feedback is and let's see if I'm making any difference whatsoever. And from ministry to teaching to medicine to, any kind of profession, we're probably all just spinning right now. And so if you are at home, dealing with just me, myself, and I in quarantine, if you're living alone, especially without family members, you might be feeling like I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea, even in my trained profession, what I'm doing. And how do I get through this? I just want you to know you're so not alone. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody. It's shooting in the dark here. It's the blind leading the blind here. It's really leaning into faith and hoping that God brings us through this. And I believe that God will, but it's a whole new world, an unexplored territory up to now. So, in order to not be just crushed by what that does in terms of our mental health, taking our feet out from under us and giving us a total lack of confidence, I think it's important to celebrate ourselves in the little wins. And what I mean by that is don't wait till the big wins, the big accomplishments to celebrate who you are and what you're doing in this world, because that might take a year to do the big wins, and sometimes we don't even know if what we're doing is going to have big wins. We're just trying stuff and see if it's going to work. So I suggest you celebrate the small wins. Throughout the course of the day, you do things well. You do. You really do. But it's just that we overlook those things. If you make a meal, if you didn't completely burn it to a crisp, then you did something well. And even if you did burn it to a crisp, you learned something in the process. And learning is always to be celebrated. If you called a friend, if you played with a dog and showed compassion to a pet, just trying things, trying things online as a teacher, as a pastor, as any profession, how we have to put so much of our work on Zoom and YouTube and Facebook and things like that. Trying things is an accomplishment. I remember one time, fairly recently, I was learning from another pastor some things to do in terms of evangelism. And he, in his seminary, he happened to be trained very well in terms of evangelism for churches, more than I feel like I was trained. I was trained in other things, but not as much in that. And so he said, what does success look like? He said, success is making the effort. I love that, because in evangelism and church work, you can't base your success on exactly how many people are coming to your church or exactly what the offerings are or anything like that, because that's out of your control. So likewise, in any profession, especially right now, so much of what we do is out of our control. But success is making the effort. So whether you're a parent trying to help your first grader learn in this totally different kind of a school year, whether you're a teacher putting all of your stuff online, hoping to connect to your students, hoping to make a difference, whether you're a nurse or a doctor dealing with COVID patients, knowing that you cannot save lives. The life and death part of this world is not up to you. It's up to God. Whether you're in, clergy and you've got to put your stuff online and you cannot sit down face to face with people, as I know you and I want to do. Trying things, even if we fail at them, even if you do a Facebook service and it crashes, everything is a learning experience, and celebrate those wins, the success of making the effort. Celebrate your effort. I know you out there, you are good people. Are you perfect? No, nobody is. We probably watch too much Netflix and stay in our pajamas too long. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I know you're trying right now. You're getting through a hard time that no preparation ever talked about. Whether you went to law school or got an advanced degree in teaching or nursing or any other profession, nobody talked about this kind of experience because it just wasn't on the table yet. So I'm sure you are making an effort. And so applaud yourself for that. And don't just keep it to yourself. Put it out there on social media so we can applaud you. This is not bragging. This is mental health, where you reach out to a community and say, hey, I accomplished something today. Show the picture of what you cooked. Show the picture of how you changed the toilet paper roll, if that was your accomplishment. I mean, whatever it was, talk about it so that we can celebrate with you those small wins. We need each other right now in community, and we've got community through social media. I know it's different. It's not what we're used to. It's not what we would prefer, but we do have one another. And so as you're celebrating your own small wins and saying, hey, way to go, pat yourself on the back, please put it out there. Tell your friends and family, put it on Instagram, Facebook, put them in the comments here on this YouTube channel. What have you accomplished? Even the small things. It is so important that we celebrate the efforts that we're making, the wins that we have, and that, we keep our attitude as positive as possible by loving our own selves and one another. Please encourage yourself. Please encourage one another. God would want you to. That is part of your spiritual, emotional, and mental health. We can get through this one day at a time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Click the bell icon so you get notifications of new videos coming out, and share this with friends and family if it could help anybody. I am your sister in this journey. We are in this together, and we'll get through it one day at a time. God bless you. Bye-bye.